everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Doing well, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Trying to take in all of the NFL news updates.
And a lot of camp videos of players looking amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
Left and right.
Yeah, so now it's that tough time of, what's legit and what's just puff pieces and irrelevant, I did notice on the 49ers end, it seems like Trey Lance is doing the same thing he did last year, in that, like, one day Trey Lance
starts killing it.
Yeah, he's killing it. Oh, he went 11 for 11 with 3 touchdowns in the red zone, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day it's, he went 1 for 10 and threw 10 interceptions. It's like, okay.
It's like...
Yeah, not really ideal for a dude entering his third year fighting for the starting job, but...
No, but maybe it's a good indication if a team is interested in trading for him. Playing well, looks well, and then maybe someone wants to go trade for him off of some of the good days. I've seen people saying, we have Trey Lance, I guess must have been coming off one of the good days. Trey Lance is doing this while we still have Desmond Ridder throwing to Falcons receivers. So someone clearly wanting the Falcons to upgrade their quarterback position was really intrigued there. So, I mean, it's possible. I think you'd probably be more likely an injury that causes that than just somebody not playing well.
Yeah, for real. So, it's an interesting time of the year when you're getting those reports and just trying to sift through it all and, make adjustments to your expectations accordingly, or just not react to it at all, I guess, is another way of doing it, because you really just don't know.
Yeah, but it is also, now we're in August here, recording on August 1st, and it is, if it wasn't mock season already, this is when I think most people are picking it up and getting started here, as you got a month until your draft, for most people probably.
Yeah, I don't, I'm going to have to pound some mocks, because this is the first year that I've gone in, I don't know what my strategy is going to be. As far as all the positions, do I go running back heavy like normal, go wide receiver heavy, go quarterback early, go quarterback late with a Tua, I have no idea what to do this year. It's odd. I don't like it.
It's tough because, I feel like with these mocks, especially when we're using, Sleeper and we're using Fantasy Pros, we kind of get an idea of what the ADP looks like here, and we can say, okay, this round, I don't like any of the running backs, so I know I'm not taking a running back here. But when you get to your draft, most people are in home leagues where there are going to be people that are using all different types of ADP, and it really does throw you off. So I feel like, for me, I try to just get, okay, these are the guys I like, and then kind of have them ranked, because you just don't know. People are going to do crazy things and take players you didn't expect to go at different areas.
Yeah, case in point, I think Najee went with the 101 in our work league last year, which really caught me off guard.
Yeah. So it's very up and down year to year. But yeah, I mean, you still want to do the mocks to get an idea of who you like, where you can take them. But you need to be water. You need to be able to roll with the punches when it comes to the drafts.
Yeah, 100%. So we do got another mock on the docket today.
Surprise.
Yeah, of course. So we have your mock for your league that I'm not in, which is a 10-team half-point PPR. Pretty normal. We got 3 wide receivers now. So we've added a wide receiver spot. We still got our 2 flex, so we've added a bench spot.
Yep.
So
so it amounts to be about the same amount of people rostered. It's just because there's 2 less teams, it amounts that there is able to be 2 more players per team, and it amounts to be about the same.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I'm in the 5. You're in the 7. So we got a couple. Me and Will just hammered out the schedule for the rest of the year. We're going to be doing a 14-teamer. A 12, and then another 10, and then another 12, and then we're done. So really hammering those 10s and 12s. Our 14-team mocks tend to be popular. surprises me.
Mixing them in.
So got a busy final month before actual drafts come. But hey, you ready to get this one started?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Beautiful. I don't remember if I said I'm in the 5, you're in the 7.
I don't know. I don't believe you did.
Yeah, so pretty close to each other.
It is there now.
Yeah, not back to back, but pretty close. Let's get this ball rolling, see what happens. Mr. Justin Jefferson goes off the board first. Then Jamar Chase, Eckler, first running back off the board at the 103. And then, of course, Mr. Christian McCaffrey goes off with the 104. I am back up. Let's see here. I think I'm going to do something different because in the last mock we did, I had said I haven't really had an opportunity to draft Travis Kelce. So I think I'm going to draft Travis Kelce, give myself that elite edge at the tight end position. It's a shame to miss out on these other pieces, but I will hopefully have the king of tight ends here. So we'll go ahead and just lock him in. I don't think it really needs to say too much about Mr. Travis Kelce. Tyreek Hill goes off the board, and now you're on the clock.
Yeah, and I was anticipating Tyreek Hill or possibly Cooper Kupp, who is still here, or Kelce. I think I kind of want to try out, more of a zero RB approach, as I think there's going to be a handful of running backs still available in this next round. I'm sorry, receivers available in the next round, unless like a Nick Chubb is still there. So we'll see what gets back, but I anticipate there's a chance that I might be able to try out more of a receiver-heavy strategy here. But for me, it's Cooper Kupp. I think him and Tyreek are pretty close. Thinking through what I want to do for our league, as I want our consolation bracket and get to select where I draft this year. Part of me, is looking at, that 101 and just taking McCaffrey and calling it a day. But part of me also really doesn't mind these top 4 receivers, or one of these top 4 receivers. And, you could take 2 or 3 and say, I'll just get Jefferson or Chase. But I also am interested in maybe sitting in the middle, not having to really reach too much and sitting at like 6-ish and knowing that I'll get a Kupp or a Hill. But I'll also be in really good position to get one of, those running backs, receivers that fall kind of in that top tier. So it's interesting. But starting here with Kupp, definitely happy to get him here at 7. Him and Hill, I think, I would take at 5 and 6, probably over Kelce, but you're not going to fault you for taking Kelce here. So I'm going to go Cooper Kupp. We'll see what gets back here. Bijan and Saquon go. CD and Stephon Diggs go next, and then Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor. So it is a very heavy running back room that went there. And
so Jonathan Taylor. Would it have a lot of news on him this week? Has your opinion shifted on him at all this year?
I mean, I was already slightly down on him coming into this season, so I probably drop a little with the uncertainty. Granted, I think we're going to know what we have in him, going into the year. So I'm not, I think he'll be here, or he'll be much further down, or he'll be much further up because he went to a great team. It works better here. So I'm probably avoiding him, at the end of the first, early second. I would be tempted here, but in this spot, let's say Mahomes went there, I'd probably still go AJ Brown. Interestingly enough, in this league, I had the 8th pick last year, and I started my draft with Cooper Kupp and AJ Brown. Got AJ Brown a couple rounds later because there was still some uncertainty there. But interesting that they were kind of 2 of my top players last year. And that's what I'm going to do here. Devontae Adams, interesting. Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson are 2 really good players as well. But with AJ, I think you know what you have. He's got a great chemistry with Hurts. The idea is that Hurts can take another step forward. And AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are going to continue to be, that best duo of receivers in the league right now. So I'm going to take him, and we'll see what gets back. And I can say this now because I'm confident you're not going to take a second tight end. If Mark Andrews is there, I feel like that's going to be an interesting choice. If I can grab Mark Andrews in the 3rd round and maybe another receiver in the 4th and see what this receiver-heavy team would look like. But we'll see what gets back here. As I take AJ Brown, Patrick Mahomes goes next.
Stupid deep 6.
Thinking
Ah,
about loading up and grabbing the
yeah,
two of
yeah. I
them
was gonna stack it and
and try it
see
out.
if that stack worked. And go tight end quarterback with 1-2 is pretty ballsy. Um, but I was gonna roll with it, man, and see what happened. And I thought I had a shot, and it's just not to be. If it wasn't going to happen in this spot, I don't think it's ever going to happen at all. So that sucks because I really didn't put a lot of thought into my other picks. I've just been in kind of on cruise. So I really thought he'd get back to me. So sitting here, I am given it's 3 wide receiver and +2 flex. I'm going to lean wide receiver, kind of like you are here. Um, and I think it's hard looking at Devontae Adams here and passing him up, but I feel like that's what I'm going to do. I don't, you know, Jimmy G could support a wide receiver. A lot of his wide receivers he supported, well, I mean, the key wide receiver supported was Debo. He just does a lot of funky stuff that Adams isn't going to do. So I'm just kind of worried about it, where I'm looking at like Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson and liking them more. And maybe it's just looking at the new hotness and Devontae
Mm.
Adams is just old news and not really that interested in it. That's definitely a possibility. But I think I'm going to go with, I think I lean Garrett Wilson. I think he's got higher upside being paired with Aaron Rodgers. With Detroit, Goff can support St. Brown, but I think that team really wants to just run the ball. So I'm going to lock in Mr. Garrett Wilson as my one, and we'll see what gets back to me. Maybe I will put Mark Andrews in the slot, just to, or in a flex spot, just to screw around a will. We'll see. So Devontae Adams goes, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Jalen Waddle. That rounds out the second. To start the third, we got Hurts, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Allen, and Breece Hall. So do I do it, Will?
Do you do
Do I
it?
do it? Have a Kelsey Andrews team just to screw you up. I will not. I do a lot of stupid things in drafts and stuff, but that's taking it a little too far. Especially considering Andrews had some injuries and Lamar was hurt last year, and the offense is new, and you have new other weapons. You can make a case for Andrews. Not returning and being even a top 3 tight end potentially. So I'll stay away. I would like to get a balance. I'm eyeing up like Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, can ETN or Gibbs get to me and be my wide or get maybe my running back one, and I can go ahead and grab Mr. Olave here? I think that's what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to lock in Olave. Load up on these second-year wide receivers here and hope for a breakout. Could be real beneficial. I'm just worried about what that first running back's going to be. So we'll lock him in. We'll see. We'll play the game and see who gets back to me. Najee Harris will not get back to me. He goes immediately after. But you are now back on the clock.
Yeah, and there is some temptation, with both Pollard and Stevenson there. And T. Higgins is another good option, but I think I'm going to try to roll the dice here with, at least a later RB start and grab an Andrews. I don't know that there's going to be a receiver, really ahead of an ETN, a Pollard, a Stevenson, if any of them get back. But Lamar Jackson could also be tempting to pair him with Mark Andrews and load up there DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen. So we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and grab Mark Andrews here. Ramondre goes next. Pollard, T. Higgins, Kenneth Walker, Lamar Jackson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. So Devonta Smith still standing here. It would have been nice to not have A.J. Brown here with him still on the board, but alas, hindsight's 2020, right? Does a Devontae Adams and Devonta Smith team look better than A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, let's say? ETN is still here as well. But I think I'm going to go ahead and grab a DK Metcalf, really kind of test out this theory, go with more of a similar team to you. We're both going with the 0 RB at the same time, which will be interesting to see how long you take it. But I'm going to go ahead and grab DK Metcalf. I think he, that offense still looks good. We've seen some highlights of Tyler Lockett looking good. JSN's looking really good. So it could be spread out more, but with the injuries to the running backs, we'll see how long that lasts. If one or both of them is out for a bit, maybe the passing volume goes up. Regardless, I think DK is pretty set, and JSN and Lockett probably eat into each other a little bit more. After I take DK, Debo Samuel goes next.
Yeah, I will probably end the quote unquote zero RB now. I said Gibbs and ETN were the guys that I wanted, and ETN is back. He's sitting right here. Now, it is hard staring down Devonta Smith and not pulling the trigger there. That would be real nice. But I do want to grab my ETN or grab my running back because we are going to start hitting that dead zone. By technical definition, we're hitting it now. But to me, ETN's probably the last one that I'm really interested in. All the other ones, I can make a case for just being traps. So I'm going to get my first running back now, lock in Mr. ETN, then probably go back to wide receivers here. Two running backs go off right after that. Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. Then we got Keenan Allen and TJ Hawkinson at the 410. Devontae Smith finally goes. The 501, Calvin Ridley, Dobbins, and Pierce. Interesting, teams 3 and 4 both got 4 running backs. Team 3 in a league where you start 3 wide receivers don't have any wide receivers yet. Team 4's only got 1, so interesting decision. So I'm sitting here. I'll just run down the positions here real quick. At quarterback, we do got Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Herbert, Lawrence, Dak, Deshaun Watson. At running back, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, Matson, Connor, Swift, Cook. At wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, D-Hop, DJ Moore, Drake London, Jerry Jeudy, Watson. And at tight end, not that I need it, but we got Kittle, Pitts, Goddard, Waller. It's a bit of a tough spot to be in. I've liked Sanders all year, but I've been trying to fade him in my mind because he is a typical kind of trap situation. Second contract, moving to a team. On the Eagles last year, he was like a back end 2. There's a lot of hype about him. So like he is a trap, but I still like him because of that hype. It just logically, I don't think I should be grabbing him. Cam Akers, tons of upside there. Madison could have a lot of upside. So some interesting options still there at running back. But looking at wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think I would take a shot on. DJ Moore, Drake London, solid options as well. I think I would take Terry McLaurin. I think Amari Cooper is close. I think they're pretty close to each other, but I want to. I say I'm more interested in the Washington offense because the offensive coordinator change and how talented Terry McLaurin is. But Amari Cooper's probably got the better quarterback, assuming Watson bounces back to some degree. He's also, at least right now, got less competition. I think because Josh Dotson has shown a lot for McLaurin, and why me and you believe in Elijah Moore, and a lot of other people do. He's not as proven as Dotson, I think, right now, just given the bad year last year. So I think I've talked myself into Cooper. I don't know if I would actually do that. I'd have to really think about that come draft time, but I think I'm going to pull the trigger on Amari Cooper here. Get my third wide receiver. DJ Moore goes off the board right after that. You are back on the clock.
Yeah, so Cooper was one of the guys I was looking at. At receiver, it's really just him and like maybe a Drake London, Jeudy still there. Miles Sanders, really the only running back. You could talk about an Alexander Madison here, James Conner, right? These are all good guys I think grab if you are going a little bit later at the position. And there's still some top quarterbacks. Burrow, the injury concern is going to scare some people off, but with Fields and Herbert both there, as well as Trevor Lawrence, it is tempting, given that the teams behind me, one of them has a quarterback already. It won't be my first choice, but it could be a temptation in the next round because there is a handful of receivers in London and Jeudy, Watson, Godwin that I wouldn't mind grabbing as my fourth. I think I'm going to have to go with the running back here and grab the first one here. And, zero RB doesn't mean waiting until, the last 7 picks and going all running backs. it's really just kind of not taking them where people usually do, which is those first few rounds. So Sanders, I think, is a fine RB2. I'll have to take some upside shots later in the draft, but getting him to hold down one of the positions and probably looking to go with one of those receivers to really continue to load up that position is going to be the move. So we're going to go ahead and take Sanders here. But Amari Cooper, I think, probably would have been the pick for me as well. So definitely temptation there. So after him, Joe Burrow goes DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Christian Watson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts all off the board. So a couple of receivers. London would have been nice. But Judy's still here. So that's definitely an interesting option. Chris Godwin as well. Alexander Madison, James Conner, DeAndre Swift. So some solid running backs. I mean, probably a little bit more of a drop-off after that, but there's still some good options a little bit later. So I think I'm going to go ahead and grab Jerry Jeudy. He's someone that I've only been moderately, I'd say moderate on, kind of in the range that he's been going. But with injuries around him, with Tim Patrick going down for the year with an Achilles injury, unfortunately he's now out 2 years in a row. And KJ Hamler hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's got a heart condition that doesn't seem like it's going to keep him out for months, but could be weeks. So I think it really, really probably helps Greg Dulcich the most, but you'd think that it's going to really filter these targets into the top receivers, and that's going to be Judy and probably Sutton as well. So given it is starting 3 receivers, getting a fourth to kind of keep that position strong with Mark Andrews is important. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Jerry Jeudy, grab another receiver here. Alexander Madison goes next.
Okay, so I really should play the game. I'm eyeing up the quarterback position now, and there's 3 that I like in this kind of tier. You got Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. I don't mind Dak. I don't mind Watson. Tua's probably next on that list. So in theory, 2 teams after me have quarterbacks. I like 3 people. I should just wait. But looking to me, there's a big difference between the upside that Justin Fields presents and the upside that Trevor Lawrence presents. I think Fields could be the quarterback 1 if utilized properly. They start throwing more and then they rush a lot, like a Lamar Jackson kind of situation, basically. Mm-hmm. I don't think Trevor has wide receiver or quarterback 1 upside to him. With that said, the floor is different too. I think Justin Fields' floor is probably, while the rushing establishes some level of floor, I think his floor is lower than Lawrence. So I think Lawrence would just be a stable, solid the quarterback. Let's look and see if anything jumps out at me at the other positions. Cam Akers, decent dart throw, given how good he looked at the end of the year. James Conner, the lone guy in Arizona, very touchdown dependent. Swift, you want to take a shot there. Dalvin Cook, Javonte Williams getting a lot of good press lately. Whether that's a trap or not, who knows? James Robinson got a lot of good press this time last year, and he's 1 step away from being out of the league. Rashad White at the wide receiver position, Godwin, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Hollywood, Pittman. I'm gonna take Fields. I don't know that I would actually do it in there. I think I would. I'm going to lock in Fields. I'm going to target Javonte Williams on the next for my next pick. So we're going to lock in Fields. Herbert goes, Swift goes, Akers and Godwin. And then to start the 7th round, we have Lockett, Pittman, Goddard, and Connor. We have some very interesting teams shaping up here. Will,
yeah.
If you're not watching,
somebody's beating me when it comes to the 0 RB.
Yeah, for real. If you're just listening, you could look at the board on YouTube. Team 1, through 7 rounds has no running backs. Team 2 now has 2. Team 3 has no wide receivers. Team 4 still only has 1. Team 10 only has 1 running back, and you only have 1 running back. So yeah, a real smattering of different teams.
Team 8 has no wide receivers either.
Yeah, correct. Yes, they do. No wide receivers. So a very interesting take in a 3 wide receiver league. in theory, like looking back at me, these teams, we could see some wide receivers go around team 8 or team 9, but that'll probably be offset by you and team 10. So I am going to strike on my Javonte Williams now. I kind of don't like it because he's my 2 right now, and he's not somebody I'd want as a 2. But maybe I could look at a Gibson in a couple rounds or something like that to offset that. So we're going to lock in Javonte Williams, take a shot on that massive upside. If he is healthy and the hype is real, we know the talent. So we'll lock him in. Mike Williams goes right after, and you are back on.
Yeah, so it is tempting to play the game, but I think I may also play it safe like you did here with Trevor Lawrence as kind of the last guy in that upper echelon. We talked about Dak and Watson, Tua, Richardson, and those later quarterbacks. But I think that Trevor is kind of the last guy here that has that real chance and good chance to kind of step in and be a top 5 guy. I do think he has a chance to be, in that top range. He was the number 1 overall pick. He's gotten better each year. His weapons have gotten better each year as well. And he's got a great coach. So it's tempting to pass, but really I'd be passing to go with another receiver and like an Ayuk or a Hollywood Brown. And just seems like there's a chance one of them's there and there's other options past them that I could take that are just not the same as grabbing, and getting that quarterback here. But I am tempted to go with another receiver after this. And have kind of that top end at, my receiving core would be, 5 deep and have Trevor Lawrence and Mark Andrews. And it'd be interesting to see what the running backs look like there. So I'm going to go Lawrence after him. Dalvin Cook goes George Kittle, and then Brandon Ayuk at the end of the round. Darren Waller, Treylon Burks, and Deontay Johnson. So back to me here. Hollywood Brown, still available, a guy that I think is going to have a ton of usage. He's been up and down. Last year he was hurt. Only played in 12 games, but finished top 45 receiver in PPR, 47 in standard, so somewhere in the middle there, call him 45. But that was in just 12 games. So he had 700 yards. You're looking at almost 1,000 pace. His touchdowns were down with 3. Maybe that doesn't come up. But he is an interesting player here to get as my 5th receiver. If I'm looking at the running back position, Rashad White still here, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery. I think most of them will probably go. We'll see. There's a couple teams that definitely need running backs. There's a couple teams that definitely don't. There's really no other receivers that I'd be taking here. And there is some other ones that I do like in the next round or two. So I think I am going to strike at the running back position. And it comes down to a couple of options here for me. If I wanted to play it a little more safe, David Montgomery, I think, is the option. I've already got one that I think is going to be safe with Miles Sanders. So I do kind of want to go for an upside shot. So that brings me to Rashad White and Alvin Kamara. Rashad White, definitely has a lot of upside. It seems like people are saying that he set some goals to be the first 1,000-yard rusher since 2015 for the team. Steve, do you know who was that 1,000-yard rusher for Tampa in 2015? Get a name to bring back for you.
2015, huh? 1,000 yards?
The last 1,000-yard rusher in Tampa, 2015.
You're in the Doug Martin era, but I don't recall if Doug Martin was on his way out then or still relevant. But I'll make my guess that it's Doug Martin.
You nailed it.
There we go. Okay.
Doug Martin.
There we go.
Very well done.
Muscle hamster.
Yes, he is. Doug Martin. Yeah, muscle hamster. One of my favorites as well. I think I had him a few years in fantasy. He last 1,000 rusher there. So Rashad White has a lot of opportunity. I think there's still a chance that could be a place that someone comes in, but definitely a lot of upside there. Alvin Kamara, obviously all the upside in the world, but there is some risk there. Last year, 15 games, he still finished as a top 20 running back. He was 16 in PPR. So I think, obviously suspension is going to hurt him, but with this team, this makeup, I do need to take some upside shots, and he's really one that I think could jump into the top 20. And if I end up with him and Miles Sanders as my top two guys, and they both are, let's say, top 24 even, with the rest of my team makeup, I think that's still pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and go with an upside shot here in Alvin Kamara. After him, Mr. Jahan Dotson comes off the board.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. So both of us have tight end and quarterback done. Not a lot of reason to look back at that. You ran down the running backs pretty well. We still got some solid wide receivers here. Marquise Hollywood Brown is here. Christian Kirk, Mike Evans. JSN's here. Rookies are usually interesting to start drafting around now, but given the clogged wide receiver space there and the talent in front of him, I don't think that would be a shot that I would take. George Pickens, often overlooked as like a second-year guy. It's just people don't think that Pickett has it in him to support, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, plus Pickens. So that's an interesting one. There are a lot of players I want, though, and that is causing a bit of an issue. I do need to grab a running back, but I'm comfortable with Rachaad White. I'm kind of comfortable with Pacheco. CEH was getting the first team reps, so that's kind of interesting. At least he was a little bit ago. Montgomery I'm good with. Gibson I'm good with. Penny I'd be good with. So I'm good with a lot of options for maybe my next pick. So we'll lock in the wide receiver that I want now. I have Garrett Wilson, Olave, Amari Cooper, so I don't really see a screaming need. Maybe Garrett Wilson and Olave being younger are inherently more risky, so I should go with someone more established like a Mike Evans. Which could be the case, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm locking in Hollywood Brown here for that upside. We're going to hope that Kyler's playing, but drafting him a lot this year. So hopefully come draft season, we'll know a little bit more about Kyler and I can officially pull the trigger there. But locked him in. Christian Kirk goes right after. Rachaad White, Mike Evans, and Pacheco to round out the 8th. To start the 9th, we have James Cook, Dak Prescott, JSN, and Jordan Addison, which is a shame. He was another one I was hoping would slide on through, but it's not to be. So at the wide receiver position, to me, I think it's pretty easily David Montgomery.
David Montgomery, the wide receiver?
No, David Montgomery, the running back. Sorry. I think he's the pick. Like AJ Dillon, I'm surprised AJ Dillon's ADP is up this high, considering how hyped he was last year and what a disaster of the season it was. Gibson could be pretty solid. Charbonnet's now hurt. Rashad Penny I've liked. I'm also starting to cool off on him a little bit again. A lot of back and forth with Mr. Penny. I think my issue with him is I said it earlier about Miles Sanders last year. He was like the RB22 or something. And it's like, well, like, is Penny better than Miles Sanders? Like, to me, they feel pretty equal. Penny might be better from a talent standpoint that gets offset by the constant injuries, maybe. But then Penny also has, a much more talented running back beside him in DeAndre Swift that Sanders hasn't had since, I don't know, year one. Who played with Miles Sanders year one? Was it the dude?
That would have been right after the Super Bowl.
Was that the dude with the Chargers? The camera from the Chargers that I don't remember? I'll research it. I'll figure it out. But
Sproles?
Ooh,
no, he wasn't there.
I don't think so.
Because that was 2018.
Yeah, I'll look it up after my pick. David Johnson, got the offseason money. They wanted to bring him in. Detroit wants to run the ball. So I'm going to lock him in there as my next running back. AJ Dillon does go. So you were on the clock. I will start doing the research.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not a ton of running backs that I love in this spot. Antonio Gibson is interesting. Zach Charbonnet, another interesting option at the rookie position, and he has an upside shot here. So I think if I want to go running back, I think it would be Charbonnet. If I'm going receiver, though, there are still some solid options, and two guys that have been kind of linked ADP wise are Brandon Cooks and Quentin Johnston. Um, you know, being that I've got some safety there, could take the upside shot there with Quentin Johnston. Could also look to go with Cooks. But given that, while the ADP is a little lower on Zach Charbonnet, he's still the number 2 running back there, and there are some teams that need running backs. I'm going to go ahead and grab Charbonnet here and just get that third running back on the team here, have more of an upside opportunity. There'll still be some solid receivers available a little later here, and that's my next pick. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Zach Charbonnet here in the 9th. Gabe Davis goes next. Kadarius Toney. Antonio Gibson goes. Deshaun Watson, George Pickens, and Rashad Penny. So luckily enough, both of those receivers are on the board here. And Brandon Cooks and Quentin Johnston. As much as I do like Quentin Johnston and what he could be, I think you are still banking on the running or banking on someone getting hurt. Given that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, it could be that all 3 of them are there, but it's tough to see him getting, double-digit targets a game if they're both healthy. You're probably looking at 4, 5, 6, 7 targets, somewhere in that range, and that's not something that I think I'm thrilled to invest in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Brandon Cooks, just getting another good receiver here. He's my 5th receiver, getting that depth in case my running backs don't pan out. I've got 5 wide receivers that I'm comfortable starting to cover my starting positions and flexes. And then just hoping that, 2 of my running backs pan out.
So, to answer the question, Miles Sanders was playing alongside Jay Ajayi.
Probably just before his knee cartilage gave out.
Yeah. And then the person I was thinking of was Ryan Matthews. Which was a little bit further back. I think you got to go to like 2016, I think, to pull up Ryan Matthews. Both him and Ajayi injured all the time, so I will forgive myself for confusing the 2 of them. So we'll take a look here. Running backs: Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, Samaje Perine. Probably losing interest as the hype around Javonte Williams continues. Khalil Herbert, A-Chain, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell at wide receiver, Quentin Johnston. He falls into the same category as whoever I was talking about earlier that I can't think of right now. JSN. Good offense. Looks to be really good, but he's got 2 really good guys in front of him. You got a more likely injury opportunity there, considering the 2 guys in front of him get hurt a fair bit. But still, I'd probably be staying away. Michael Thomas, Juju, Zay Flowers, probably the next one I'm interested in. I'm taking a lot of shots at wide receivers. I'll probably just flip back and forth between my picks. So I'm going to lock in Zay Flowers now to get my 5th wide receiver, and then we'll look at running back for the next pick. Freiermuth goes, Quentin Johnston goes there. Njoku and Tua at the 10-10. Brian Robinson, A-Chain, Anthony Richardson, and Michael Thomas go. It's a shame A-Chain would have been interesting. But I'm going to take a shot on Khalil Herbert here. Throwing, darts at the Chicago backfield for a while. There was some information on, I think, Rashawn Johnson walked off with an injury today. I don't think they're expecting anything serious, but when a rookie misses any time in training camp, that could have an impact. Khalil Herbert knows the offense a little bit better than he does. And, every day that Roshan misses, if he does miss any time, it's certainly not going to help his case. So looking at a wide receiver, a young guy, potentially stepping into, you're always looking for, somebody whose situation has changed. Khalil Herbert's situation has changed. Montgomery's gone, so you can see that next progression. So I'm going to lock him in there, get another running back, and maybe continue this running back wide receiver flipping the rest of the way. We'll see.
You are pairing David Montgomery back up with Khalil Herbert.
Yeah. That worked well for the Bears, didn't it? Why not? Jamal Williams goes right after my pick. You're back up.
Yeah, so you and Team 6 made it easy. He's looking to go ahead and grab another running back here. And Perine still on the board. It probably would have taken him over Jamal, maybe not over Herbert, but I think he's a good safe option, after getting a couple of upside guys with Kamara and with Charbonnet. So he's a guy that I think could have season-long value, but I think will have early value, especially with the injuries to the receivers. Could definitely see some of the running backs worked in. At this stage, not worried about getting an 11th round running back paired with a 6th round receiver, since I already have Judy. Not too worried about that. Just given that I'm looking to just shore up that running back position. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in P. Ryan. Sutton goes next. Chig, Aaron Rodgers. So we got another double quarterback going. Elijah Mitchell, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Dalton Schultz. So we're looking at the receiver position, the running back position, the rest of the way. At receiver, top on the ADP, Rashad Bateman, who as much as I think we're both rising on Zay Flowers, Bateman, once he comes off the PUP list, which note that here in the offseason, it's not the same PUP list as the regular season where you're shut down for 6 weeks. With this PUP list, you can come on and off whenever you'd like, whenever you're healthy. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a longer term injury, but he's a good upside shot here. As is an Odell Beckham. I mean, both guys in Baltimore. We don't know who's going to be the one. It could be either of them or Zay. But given that I already have Mark Andrews, it's more of a depth play. Looking at some other receivers here, Elijah Moore is a good option, especially an upside shot. And Alan Lazard, another guy that I like, and think he probably is going to be the wide receiver 2 there, especially given the familiarity that he has with Aaron Rodgers. He'll have his upside games. Looking at running backs, Damian Harris in Buffalo. He's going to be there, and more of the plotter, more of the first and second down guy. But with James Cook looking to probably take more of a role as a pass catcher, maybe he'll yield a few extra downs to Harris, just to alleviate some of the wear and tear with the injury ahead of them with Dime Hines on the team. So Damian Harris is an interesting option here at running back. A little further down, Tyler Algier, I feel like, has been pretty faded, and it's understandable. John Robinson is the new hotness. He's the guy everyone's going after. But later in drafts, I think he's going to be a good value. We are here in the 12th round of a 10-team leagues, right? So in the 110s, 120s. And, he's still around plus away. His ADP is 130. So he's going to be going, ADP-wise at the end of the 13th round. He's a guy that I think is going to get, 30-40% of the touches at a minimum. I don't think they want to run Bijan into the ground. They seem like a team that wants to run the ball a ton. So he's someone later in drafts that I do kind of like as well. Given the team that I have here, I feel like I'd rather take an upside shot at the wide receiver position. So I'm going to go ahead and take an Elijah Moore. I haven't really gotten him in redraft leagues much. I think have him in dynasty leagues. We're hoping for a lot. Lazard would be solid as well, but I feel like I'm going to go with a shot of a guy that could kind of step in and step into that top 36 role, top 30 role possibly. And currently, he's going as wide receiver. Looks like last year he was wide receiver 81. I'm trying to see, does it give us where he is in the wide receiver position, Steve?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, it doesn't. But this deep into the draft, you got to imagine most teams have 5+. So this is somewhere in the 60s and 70s, and he's someone that I think could step in. If he has a good year. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab Elijah Moore. After Elijah goes Jameson Williams.
So we're gonna play a game real quick here, Will. I'm gonna blow through my next 2 picks to offset it, but I've ended up down a rabbit hole.
Oh boy.
2013 Eagles, going 10 years back.
Yes.
Can you name the 3 starting wide receivers from that team? Your quarterback was Nick Foles at the time.
Nick Foles. Probably looking at was Deshaun and Macklin both still there?
Deshaun was, but I'm not seeing Macklin, so he must have moved
Macklin
on.
probably in over in Kansas City. Yeah. Riley Cooper?
Yes, Riley Cooper is another one. Yeah, so you're missing one. I will be impressed if you get this one.
Was it? Yeah, that's after Jason Avant,
right?
It
was Jason Avant. Damn, dude.
Jason Avant, dude. Yeah, he was awesome. Well, he was like the prototypical possession receiver, man.
Yeah.
He caught everything across the middle.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
And I feel like I also recently watched, I think it might have been that year, the Nick Foles record 7 touchdown game, because that was Nick Foles' first stint with the Eagles before the Super Bowl years later.
Yeah.
And he played Oakland and had a 7 passing touchdown game, something that only he has done in the NFL, which is still crazy to think.
Wild. Yeah. I was looking through. I was expecting Kevin Cobb to be on this, but he's not. So I'm assuming he was in Arizona at the time. I don't remember what year he left, but yeah, interesting stuff nonetheless. Just a little side rant. So I said I make my picks fairly quickly. I do want to grab a running back here because they are drying up. We have like Singletary's here. I can't take a shot on Foreman because I already got Khalil Herbert. I can't do Tank Bigsby because I already got ETN. I can't do Roshan Johnson. So I'm going to take my shot on Damian Harris. Hopefully he gets some, potentially first or second down work and goal line work, and James Cook is the pass catcher there. But at this late round, if it's all James Cook and I miss out, so be it. So we'll lock him in there to get another running back. Daniel Jones, Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins, Rashad Bateman go for the 12th round. Dalton Kincaid and Kmet start the 13th. Alan Lazard finally goes. That would have been big time contention for me there. Jerick McKinnon goes. So looking at the wide receivers, we got OBJ, Jacoby Myers, Tyler Boyd, Sky Moore, Darnell Mooney, Jonathan Mingo, Rondell Moore, Rashee Rice. So I can't really do OBJ because I got Flowers already. I don't want to do that. Jacoby Myers, I'm not really believing in. Same with Tyler Boyd. Darnell Mooney is tempting as like a post-hype sleeper, and pairing him with Fields, I just don't know that team's going to go from supporting 0 wide receivers to 2 suddenly. That seems like a big ask. So I think I'm going to take a shot on Sky Moore, another second-year guy, getting some hype out of camp, filling into that Juju role. Haven't been super high on him because, when you have your rookie season, you tend to not do a lot. You tend to just never break out. But, this late, I'm okay taking a shot. So we'll lock in Mr. Sky Moore, send it back your way. Geno Smith goes after me.
Yeah, so going to be loading up probably mostly on running backs here, maybe mix one receiver in throughout, but given that I've got a pretty solid top, 6 receivers, we're loading up on running backs. And the first one's easy. Tyler Algier, I talked about him in the last round, and he made it back, especially this build of a team, looking for late round running backs that I kind of plug and play. He's an easy pick here for me. Odell goes next, Jared Goff, Greg Dulcich, Kendre Miller, Devin Singletary, and Jacoby Myers. So Singletary was going to be an option. He's someone that I've been high on all year. But he goes, alas. So going to go ahead and grab the aforementioned Devonta Foreman. I know you mentioned that was it an injury that you said you saw?
For Roshan Johnson?
For Roshan.
Yeah. Roshan, I saw something. I kind of glanced at it. I will look it up real quick and see if I can find something.
Regardless, it seems like Foreman and Herbert are rotating with first team offense, and I think he is just, he's someone that's going to be solid. And at this stage,
undisclosed injury.
Undisclosed.
Yes,
okay.
I can't say too much.
So there's still some other later kind of upside shots, but he's another guy that I think is going to get some carries. So, if I miss out on a few of these other guys, Kamara's, suspended, Charbonnet's injured, P. Ryan isn't getting the carries. Roshan's a guy that you can kind of plug in while you need some help. So I'm going to grab Roshan here. And after him, Gerald Everett.
Okay, I am back on the clock. We got 3 picks left. Let's look at the running backs. I could take a shot on a Jeff Wilson or a Mostert. That's interesting. After that, though, Clyde Edwards-Helaire down here. I may take that shot, given he, I guess he had first cracks at, or had the first crack at first team. So in the 14th round, potentially getting a starter is pretty solid. So we'll lock him in. We'll go wide receiver the rest of the way. Darnell Mooney might get to me. Maybe. Nope. There goes that. That's a shame. So Tyler Boyd goes Higbee, Mostert, Zeke. Starting at 15th, we got Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Mooney, and Mingo. Rondell Moore would be a nice shot here, except I already have Hollywood and I don't want to double up. Rasheed Rice would be an interesting shot here, except I have Sky Moore and don't want to double up. I mean, in that offense, you really kind of could.
Yeah.
Zay Jones, I'm kind of off on. Romeo Dobbs, interesting. There was some hype about him, but depends on how you feel about Jordan Love. Nico Collins ain't bad. Gallup's okay. Chark maybe could be the one. Jalen Hyatt, I haven't heard anything else about since I heard bad things about him a while ago. So he's just gone. And things really thin out. We do got Mechie down there. We got Wendell Robinson, Hunter Renfro, Marvin Mims, kind of a deep shot. MVS is down there. So we got some options. I was going to take a shot on Rasheed Rice, and then I remembered I got Kelsey, which kind of makes me regret that Sky Moore. I don't.
Yeah, you got and Clyde. You got
yeah. So I'm just gonna ignore Rasheed Rice. I don't need to be playing that game. I'll take a shot on Romeo Dobbs. We saw some good things from him. He's getting some hype as being the go-to guy. So we'll lock him in there at the wide receiver position, and then Jalen Warren goes. That's a good pick in the 15th round.
Yeah, he was someone I was looking at here as we're talking about grabbing these younger kind of handcuff running backs. He's a solid pick. So the last couple picks here, I've got kind of a handful of each of the positions. So receiver, Rasheed Rice, as you talked about, has looked good and good upside shot. Zay Jones also has been just getting a ton of hype at camp. Obviously, two guys that I think we presume are going to be ahead of him, but he has looked good. So he's another option. Shaheed in New Orleans. Van Jefferson, I have Cooper Kupp, but he is someone that I'm usually taking later. And John Mechie are receivers. The running back position, we've got Jeff Wilson in Miami, a guy that is going to have his games. Chase Brown in Cincy. I think I saw something today that the backup in Cincy did get hurt. Travion Williams, I believe his name is. So regardless, I think people had some high hopes for Chase Brown, but he's someone that's interesting. And then you've got Leonard Fournette, Gus Edwards, and my favorite ADP, just perplexing player is Kenny Gainwell later. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Mr. Chase Brown here first. I think he's a good option there in Cincinnati, and we'll go ahead and grab one of the other running backs afterwards. So a couple more go up the board. Russell Wilson, Jeff Wilson, Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford, Chuba Hubbard, and Rondell Moore. So it makes it easy. I'm going to go ahead and grab my guy, Kenny Gainwell. We saw Swift go earlier, saw Penny go earlier. I do think, there's a good chance that any of those three with Gainwell lead the backfield. So getting him late, for this ERB team loading up and now, ending with 8 running backs. Granted that 7 of them came in the 8th round or later. 5 of them came in the 11th round or later. Pretty solid. So after him, Leonard Fournette is off the board before you.
Okay, so I am up here with my final pick. Take a look at the wide receiver options we have here. Rasheed Rice is still here. Zay Jones, Nico Collins, a lot of the same people. Are there any interesting tight ends I want to take a shot on? No. Running backs, Gus Edwards, kind of interesting. But wide receivers at this point definitely going to have a much higher hit rate. Let's see here. Where was Tim Patrick's done? I think I'll take a shot on Hunter Renfro. He's becoming a fan favorite of mine in the last rounds, just from what we've seen in the past. And, Jimmy G's usually pretty good at using that Renfro type. So we'll lock him in there. That is going to round out the draft. Laporta, Zay Jones, Gus Edwards, and McBride go to round out the draft. So 10-team, half-point PPR. I am drafting out of the 5. Will is drafting out of the 7. I will go first here. At quarterback, I got Justin Fields. At running back, I got ETN. We have Javonte Williams, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Damian Harris, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. At wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Amari Cooper, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Zay Flowers, Sky Moore, Romeo Dobbs, and Hunter Renfro. And then at tight end, Travis Kelce. 10-team leagues, it makes drafting a tight end a lot. It's easier to swallow because you look at your team and it still looks pretty good. Overall, I'm pretty happy. I really like my wide receiver group combined with Kelce and Fields. Running back, I am missing that elite stud. ETN is definitely a tier or two below them. Getting a Pollard, Stevenson, Najee, Derrick Henry would have been nice. I guess that's the cost of getting Kelce, right? But overall, I like it. Even for a 10-team league, I think I like it more than most teams I've drafted for a 10-teamer. Depth is a little kind of worrisome. Sky Moore, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Romeo Dobbs, I can see them all just being possibly nice to hit on someone. But overall, I'm pretty happy. How about you? You want to give a rundown on your team?
Yeah, so I've got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara, Zach Charbonnet, Samaje Perine, Tyler Algier, Deonta Foreman, Chase Brown, and Kenny Gainwell at running back. Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Cooks, and Elijah Moore at receiver, and Mark Andrews at tight end. Like the team, it's pretty similar to yours. Our builds are pretty similar. The running back position, a lot of depth, but obviously not a lot of upside. So I'm going to need, a couple of them to hit. But really, other than that, I'm high on Trevor Lawrence. Mark Andrews, obviously, kind of plug and play. And then Cooper Kupp and A.J. Brown at the top is just, lovely to have. DK Metcalf, Jeudy, Cooks are solid. So I think I've got, at least one of my flexes covered, if not both, with just receivers. And then it's just, one or multiple of those running backs hits, then I may be able to have more upside at the flex. So pretty happy with the team, but as you said, it's a 10-team league, so a lot of times you are going to be, a little more satisfied with your team, but also at times it's more important to kind of zig when other teams are zagging in a team like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you found this helpful. Did you prepare for your draft? We'll have another one coming up. Hopefully, you'll have your draft spot picked by then.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
I can do some mocks for that.
Yeah, so I can play the role of your dad, per the usual.
Per usual.
And we'll do that mock in a few weeks. Tune in next week for another mock. I think we're doing the 14-teamer next week. Tune in then. Until then, folks, trust your board.